We are all together, I hope.
Yes, yes, yes.
Excellent. Okay.
Yes, we are.
Thank you very much. So, where we started from, this is Jupyter Lab. I hope that by now we know how to get to Jupyter Lab. If you don't, you probably need to watch the very first video. I think the very first video. Yeah. Of course, in summary, install Anaconda, run Jupyter Space Lab in command prompt, and you should get to Jupyter Lab. Right? So a quick review. Remember how I'm sure by now we've already gone through how the Hangman game works. And I put together a short pseudocode. You may not follow this one exactly, but it's a summary of how we expect things to work. Now, what we did last week was we did how to get, have we gotten inputs? Okay, not yet. We started by this part, guessing a random word, right? From an English dictionary. Oh, okay, this is how we started. We started by choosing a difficulty, then guessing a random word. Those two things together got us to getting two modules. One is get random, which is this one. And two, remember the get random is where we imported random and we define a function that sends minimum length and maximum length, which we are getting from a difficulty where a user selects a difficulty. So let me put things on hold for a second. Let me run the game. I designed a small block of code to show how the game might look like. It doesn't have to be hard, but you don't have to always follow this. So I'm going to run Python. So it might, in your case, you can design that anyhow you want, might look like this. Somebody asks, the system asks the user, choose a difficulty level. I choose 1, like it's easy. Of course, this thing I did here was just so that we are the designers, you can see the word, right? So it says guess a letter, I guess A. Oh, tells me that A is not in the word, right? I guess again, I guess E. E is not in the word, right? I guess I. I is in the word. If you look at it, it's quite interesting. It prints I and tells me I have 4 tries remaining. I guess N, since I already know what the word is anyway. I guess O. O is not in the word, right? I guess G. I guess S, and guessing that I'm correct. I've successfully guessed all the letters. Congratulations. Press Y to play again, or press any key to exit the game. So I press any key, and my game is over. So in summary, this is what we're going to be designing at the end of all of this, right? Let's clear. Now let's come back to where we were last week. Last week we put together a difficulty selector that asks the user. Remember, let me go back to terminal. This part is printed right here. Look at it. Right? Because we use the input keyword to select data from user. One of the concepts that we learned, right? We use the while, which is a conditional loop. Let me use that word. Then we use try, which I'm sure we learned as well, to catch exceptions. So we say try, if selection, if you can successfully convert it to an integer, which we ask the user to pick. I'm sure all of this, we've looked at it already. You can go back to the old videos. And it runs through and picks a difficulty and returns it. Then this difficulty, to go back to our main, we use this to select a difficulty. So once this is run, it asks the user for difficulty and returns the difficulty. The difficulty exists it goes and it now generates a random word. If it does not exist, it fails, right? So that's where we were as at last week. Okay, so this time we are going to be continuing where we stopped, which, let me minimize this. So the next thing we're going to try to do, let's go back to pseudocode. That's our guide. What we have done is that we have done this part. We have generated a random word. Then we create a counter. Because remember, we're supposed to always check for when the user is making his guesses, right? Just hold on, I'm wondering why it's taking a while. Okay, select, and we should, why are you always opening? Okay, oh, I see. Okay, so, one moment. All right, so we start a loop, right? So I come to, like I like to do, I like it if we go and check, go and try this stuff out in Jupyter Notebook. Remember, we did all these tests in Jupyter Notebook. So let's run this, just to be sure we're on the right page. Maybe a copy and paste. Let's be sure that this works. One. Okay. So it prints. That's good. Let's add one more thing. Print difficulty so that we can see the results. Okay, so that means in our next block of code, we are going to be using this difficulty because we have to track this number of tries. Remember, we will have to be counting down the number of tries, or rather number of wrong tries, right? So we can start by saying just something simple. While, okay, let me just have a simple English. Each gets a single letter from user, if correct, right? If it's correct, inform user. Don't decrement number of tries. Don't decrement number of tries because he's correct, right? If wrong, that works, yep. So remember our random word in Jupyter Lab, in this Jupyter is a ways. Let's not forget, let's see, are you there? Yeah, right here. And our difficulty is what? This. So let's use that to begin the paparazzi that I want to do. So at least we know that let's initialize a variable called number of tries. Since difficulty is a dictionary, we can just use, we are trying to extract the number 6 of tries. Remember, we have used these two comfortably in our get random. So the one we are using now is this last one. If you are lost, just call my attention. So number of tries, what should it return? 6. Of course, another way you can do this, there's another way you can refer to this is by using something called get. So I'll quickly teach you that. Now what this does is that, you see, it returns the same thing. But what this does is that in the event that the key that you are looking for, in our case, number of tries, does not exist. So if I do this, let's say this is probably wrong. You see, it returns nothing, right? But if I try this same thing, with the dictionary method, with the square brackets, it returns an error. Right, that's different between these two. So you can either decide to use square brackets or use the get method. Whichever way you want, you can always extract a number of tries. But let's keep it simple and let us extract our number of tries from the dictionary, difficulty dictionary, and that is 6. So remember, our goal now is, in simple words, count down from 6, right? If gets input, let me use the word single letter from user. So that's the next thing we're going to do. So if we count down from 6, well, number of tries, so we're counting down from 6 to 0, right? Is greater than 0. If we just print number of tries, we are going to be getting ourselves an infinite loop because 6 will continue to print, right? So we need a way to be able to count down on, to be able to reduce the 6 until it gets to 0. So what we need to do is get input from user. What's the criteria for counting down from 6 to 0 if the input is wrong, right? So next thing we have to do, we have to get input from user. So let's say letter is equal to input. Please guess a letter in the hidden word, right? Let's add a new line to this. So we're now saying that if letter in, if letter is in, what's our word? Random word, right? This is random word. Yeah, random word. So if letter is in random word, let's just use the word pass. Else, number of tries. Let us now decrement. So this means we are decrementing by 1. So we are just doing a test, right? Okay, if letter is random word, let's do print letter. So at least you are printing something. So what I've just done here is that first line, check if 6 is greater than 0. Remember, our number of tries is 6, but just for this particular use case. We ask the user for inputs. If the letter is in the word, we have to check if this works. Print the letter. So I can take this out, I don't need it anymore. If it's not there, change 6 to 5, print wrong letter, and then loop again. That's what the while is for. So let's try this. So let's guess a letter. If I guess E, wrong letter, please try again, right? That means this happened. And then what happened next? It printed number of tries, which is 5. It tries again. Remember, our word is away, A-W-A-Y. Let's see, away is right, okay? So let's do A. And you see what happens? A is there. And because of that, 5 does not change to 4. So let's just keep typing the wrong thing. We've guessed E before anyway, but let's just keep typing E. So you see, it keeps going down until the code fully executes, right? And our code is done. So at least to some extent, we've put together something that gets inputs from the user and then counts down until the stuff is 0, right? Let me copy and paste here again. So remember, our random word is a ways. So let me just put that somewhere here. A number of tries So now, okay, what I'm going to let me hard code these guys temporarily, since you already know what we are looking for. Let's make our number of tries smaller so that we can quickly run through a loop as soon as possible. So we try this again. I try E 3 times, everything ends, right? So now the next thing is, okay, what if somebody, now this is the part where since we are getting input from users, we need to start including exception handling, right? Try out stuff. Is it correct? Is it wrong? That kind of stuff, right? So the first thing we have to even check, oh, what if the guy enters 2 letters? Is our goal to get 2 letters or 1 letter, right? That means if you notice, if he enters 2 letters here, it still seems to have worked, but we don't want to be able to enter 2 letters. We want to be able to enter only 1 letter. So I'm going to do a copy, let me paste in another cell. So we need to come, and just before we start, just before we continue this, we need to, before we start processing if the letter is a random word, we need to now check if the letter, so the next thing I have to do here is check if letter is a singular, or let me use the word a character. So it's like saying that length of letter is equal to, must always be equal to 1. So we are now saying that just before this, if length of letter is not equal to 1, print wrong input. Please try again. And once we are done, now so that, look at this very closely, so that it does not go and continue the next one, if we leave this like this, it will continue the next block. But because we are in a while loop, I use the continue keyword. Now what the continue does, it breaks out of the loop. Not necessarily break out of the current iteration of the loop. So if with this continue, if number of tries was 3 and this happens, it skips all these things and goes and starts the while loop again. Then asks. So let's even give it a try, right? So it gets the first letter, it tells me, oh, wrong input. See, it starts again, right? That means all of these prints that would have happened did not happen. It goes and tries again. Now if I do the E, see that? So the first time I enter the RE, it did not capture the other parts. But mind you, if I do not do this, let's try again. I do RE. If you look at it, you see what happens here? It runs wrong input, try again, which is this one. Then it comes and continues these parts. Of course, this will not execute. It comes and does the else and says, wrong letter, please try again. And that's exactly what happened here. Then it now prints the number of tries, which is 2, right? And you see that somehow it does the whole stuff again. So I come here, I restore my continue, and we have been able to check that the letter is just a single letter. So let me just change this to 1 so that I can just get only 1 try. So if I guess it wrong, game over. Yeah. Okay. Next exception I thought about, or you can think about, what other exceptions do you think we should get? What if somebody enters something that is a number, right? So let's try that. Someone enters a number. I don't expect the number to even exist. You're asking to guess only letters, right? So the string function has something called is alpha, and it tells you, oops, what did I do? Okay, let me do the help. So it tells you that returns true if the string is an alphabetic string. right? So we can add something to this part to say if the length is not this, or this should be not. So if it is not an alphabet, let me put this in brackets just so that we are all safe. Not necessary, but then let's have it in brackets. Let's delete this. So this time we try the same 4, and we see we have the same. So because this 4 meets this criteria, that O is not a letter, it prints wrong input, try again, right? If I enter a correct letter, let's say A, and here it says, oh, you've done well. So when I enter a wrong letter, my game ends, right? Because I only have 1 try. So we've been able to capture 2 things. So you can see how somehow we are combining if statements together here. We are chaining the conditions. Let me just add one last one, just in case somebody does not enter a letter. What this means is that if somebody enters a letter that doesn't, maybe just something that is blank. I do this and I leave this empty. See here it says wrong input, please try again. Which is what this means. If I try 5, 5 is not alphanumeric. If I try full stop, you see full stop is not alphanumeric, comma. So even if I enter a symbol, all of those things, but if I enter the wrong thing, it ends, right? So we are at this point, and we've been able to successfully catch at least a couple of exceptions, right? All right, next thing. Next thing we want to do is, what's next? Let's go back to our pseudocode. What have we done so far? We've asked the player for input. Oh, look at what it says here. If the letter has been guessed before, tell the player that he has already guessed it. So how do we track that a letter has been guessed before? How? So we need a variable that holds all his guessed letters, right? So let's copy this. Let's paste it here. We need a variable to hold his guessed letters. So let's create a variable called guessed letters. Since it's going to be holding multiple stuff, let's create it as a list. Now, what that means is that each time somebody guesses a letter, what we'll come here and do is that we will append, so after this, right, this is the first test we are doing. So if letter in guessed letters, you know, we are printing that he has guessed it before. You have already guessed this letter before. Or let's say, let's be more polite. So what we are doing here is that, of course, it's blank. The first time we try it, it becomes blank. But if it is not in the guessed letters, we should have to now say, okay, else guessed letters dot append letter. So what this means, just to be sure that what we are doing is sensible, we can just print. So each time we guess a letter, if we have guessed it before, it should print all our guessed letters. Sorry, if you've guessed it before, it should print that we have guessed this letter, try again, right? If you have not guessed it before, it should print our guessed letters. So let's try this. Remember, this first one, we already know what it means, right? The next thing we are doing is to test that this works. So let's print a valid word called A. So remember, if the word we guessed is not there, what it does, it appends it and then prints the guessed letter, which is A. Let's enter another one, A again. Now what it says here, you have already guessed this letter, please try again. Why? Because somehow it has kept track of those letters. Let's fail the game and look right here. It prints A and E, which are the two letters we guessed, right? So let's take this guy, or rather, let's move this guy so that if somebody guessed the letter before, let's tell him what he has guessed, right? If he has not guessed it before, let's append it and continue our game. So let's run this again. E, okay, let's start with A. And let's guess A again. So it says you have guessed letter already. Let's try again. See? A is right there. Now let's try W. W has not been guessed before, which is good for us. Remember our game, our word is a ways, right? I hope we're still together. This might take a while. I probably have to stop in a moment so that we can go and review. So we've guessed A, we've guessed W. Let's guess W again. It tells me, oops, I've guessed W before. And since you told it, remember here, that once you have printed that you should guess it, you should print the guess letters, which is A and W, right? So I guess the A again. So I guess Y. I guess Y again. It tells me, oh, you have printed A, W, and Y. Right? So you see that it's okay. Let me stop this point so it does not confuse us. So let's fail the game, print an E, and fail, right? So you can see there that somehow we've been able to satisfy this condition that says if the letter has been guessed before, tell the player that letter has been guessed, which is good. If the letter is in the word, tell the player that he is correct. Remove the letter from the correct letter set. Now this is where it gets very interesting. So we are saying that if the letter is in the word, tell the player that he is correct. Have we done that yet? Let's see. Let me come here, copy. I like to just do a copy and paste. Another cell. So here we are saying that if the letter is in the word, which is this one, so let me just write a so if letter is in the word, print letter. So but here he's saying that what we want to do is tell the player that he is correct. So we just do what are we printing? Let's say you have guessed a correct letter. All right. Now the next thing we say we wanted to do, is probably going to get, it's about to get very interesting, is that we are telling the player remove the letter from the correct letter set. So we need to create something called the correct letter set. So let's just call it, okay, so from the very beginning, remember now, that's really where it gets interesting, right? Because if I remove, let's try this, if letter is in correct word, so we are saying that we want to remove the letter from the correct letter set. How do we do that? How do we remove? So we are saying that, what we are saying here is that if I guess A in a ways, remove A, where did you go? Sorry, from a ways, right? Of course, that should be pretty easy if you know exactly what you're doing. So since this is a string called a ways, let's do it. Let's do a try. A ways, you can use replace A. So if we do this, what should be remaining? WYS. So we can use something like this and put it somewhere here. So if the letter is in the random word, we can now say random word is equal to random word dot replace letter, which is quite kind of similar, right? Because here a ways is a random word, and we are replacing the correct letter with this guy. So that when we are trying again, so when we are done with this, I like to print random word. So let's try this. Let me delete this guy. So if I guess A, so we have guessed the correct letter, right? Good. So what's left? WYS. If I print W, see, I've guessed the correct letter, Y and S. If I guess Y, I left with S. If I guess S, oh, actually at this point the game should be over, right? But it's still asking us to guess. So something is amiss in our code. So we need to check that our code gets to 0 and end the game. So at what point do we check that he's fully correct? Because it's also possible that he's wrong and he runs out of time. So how do we differentiate between when he is correct and when he is wrong? At least we know one thing, that the random word is reducing. Remember, it was WYS. The next one, it dropped to W, and it dropped, sorry, it dropped to YS, and it dropped to S, and it dropped to nothing. So we can keep track of the length of the random word. So we can come here. Let's call it keep track of the length of the word. We can say if length of random word is equal to 0, print you have successfully guessed all the letters. Congratulations. All right, let's try this again. So let me keep printing the random word so it does not confuse us. So let's print A, correct letter, W, correct letter, Y, correct letter, S, correct letter, oops. So we have guessed all the letters, but it still prints something else. So what do we need to do? Since we are in a loop, let's just break out of the loop. Now, once we break, this means that stop this while loop, right? Let's try again. A, W, Y, S. See, at this point, we have broken out. Congratulations, and we are here. Now, of course, a couple of other things you have to also test. As you are building this game, right, you continue to test a couple of things. If we print E, which is wrong, okay, which is good for us, because you only have one try, right? Now, how do we actually make the game more interactive? Because the person does not know the position of A in the word. Because if it doesn't, remember how our game was designed to be. Let me just see if this is still visible. Something like this. You want it to be something like this. Right? So each time he guesses a word, a letter rather, it tells him where it is in the word until the end of the game. So that's the next thing we will need to look at. How, so have we been able to do the others so far? Okay, so we have removed the letter from the correct letter set. Now the next thing is tell the player rather, the position of the letter in the word, right? And that is what we have to tell our players. So let me just stop this here for now. Next week, we will be looking at how to tell our player the position of the letter in the word. Before we do that though, let's try something. So if you look at what's happening here, right? We lost the random word once the person starts guessing it. Because here, random word changed from the original random word to some crazy looking word like WYS. So what I'll do is I'm going to do something interesting. I'm going to create another word. Let us call it new word. Any word should do. Is equal to random word. So that our random word remains the same. And here, what we are comparing with is new word instead of random word. So we are saying that if letter is in random word, here we now tell new word to be. Now this way, let me do this. Now what we have just done here, so we are tracking new word this time. New word is reducing. So what I've just done here is that we have found a way to keep track of, look at what happened here. Because I printed random word and new word. We found a way to maintain our random word as the original one and the new word as the depleted word. Let me use that word. So that when the person is wrong at the end, at this point, for example, let's see. Okay. So at the point where the guy has hit his limit, remember that we have a while statement. So let's write an else for the while. Let's write, sadly, you have run out of tries without guessing the word, so that we can at least have some let's use F strings this time. The word is, so this time we are using the original word. Remember, that's why this is exactly why we created two different holding variables for the new word and the random word. So when the person fails, we can now tell him, oh, this is actually the word we asked you to guess. So let's print it as uppercase. Then we can now tell him, oops, at this point, game over. So what we are doing here is that when the person gets to 0, which is what happens when this thing continues to deplete, by the time he stops meeting this criteria, this begins to run. So let's try that. Let's enter the wrong pin, E. You see there? Wrong letter, please try again. Yeah. Sadly, which is what is here, you've run out of tries without guessing the word, because you have maintained this. So let's try this again. Let's assume I guess A correctly. You have guessed the correct letter, right? Good. If I guess E, since you have only one try, see, wrong letter, then sadly, that way, if you notice, it maintains the old original word that we have right here. Okay, I'm going to take a break for now. Let's just round up by copying this stuff. I'm going to paste it in our main. So where do we paste it? Let me just create a new. So we already have the random word select gotten. So we don't need this. And we don't need these two. These two were extracted from number of tries. Oh, I need a number of tries. So at this point, difficulty is correct. This is where I need this stuff. So I need to take this stuff, cut, and paste. So let me remove this one. Okay, I can just leave the random word as this. So number of tries here is difficulty, exactly what we got from here. Let's not forget how we got it. It's very far, but it is somewhere. Yeah, right here. So let's come to main.py and say that. So we have put our stuff together in this. Let's save. Let's go to terminal. Let's clear Python main.py. Let's see if this works. I pick easy. Okay, so let's go back here. Let's follow the step one by one. The first thing it did was print a random word, which in our case was Harry. Right? I guess a letter A, and it says you have guessed a correct letter. Excellent, right? Which is exactly what we asked you to do. Where is it? 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 Yep, right here. So if I guess, say, AS, wrong input, we know why, right? Because of this block of code, right? If I guess a number, wrong input again, of course we know why, same block of code. If I leave it blank, same thing happens because I left it blank, same block of code. So we have, there's another one that you know, any other exceptions that you know we can handle, we can always throw it in here. Now the next thing is, if I have guessed letter already, so if I guess A, which I've already guessed, so it says, you have already guessed this letter, please try again. But then it looks like it still goes through that loop. So let's go back and check. Did I skip? Guess the letter, please try again. So I can just come here and do continue. Let's save. Let's cancel this and let's rerun. Okay, so let's try this again. Let's try A. Let's try A again. Okay, good. So somehow we've been able to use that continue so that it does not run through the rest of the stuff again. So if it is not there, it should append that. So let's come back to terminal and guess a wrong letter. Let's see, let's guess a wrong letter. Oops, you have guessed a wrong letter. Oh, it's actually correct. So E is there. Okay, let's guess something wrong. Oh, wrong letter, please try again, which is exactly what it says. Where is it? Here. Wrong letter, let's try again. Right? So, okay, let's try and see if we can we can reach this one. So let's guess the correct letter a couple of times. So we have B, correct? A, we have guessed that before. N, L, G. Okay, so as I get a letters calculation, which is good for us. Let's run another one again. This time, let's see if it is wrong. Easy. U, E, O. Okay, so let's keep guessing the wrong thing. And sadly, one of tries are guessing the word. The word is church, game, over. All right, let's take a break for now. I'm sure at least to some extent, we've been able to put a game together, right? Well, if you ask me, right, we might just let us as well tell ourselves that we are done, right? But then there's one more thing that we have to now be able to put together. Okay, how do we tell the user where exactly? Okay, if you guess the word you, where is you in church, right? Maybe next week we can look at that. But up until this point, you have put together a game that you can use, at least for some bragging rights, right? So I think that brings us to the end of this particular session. And hopefully we'll get to improve on the game next week, right? So what I'm going to do is that I will upload this version and I will upload the completed version of the game so that I can even look at both of them. So this main.py, and I also upload the completed version of what I put together. So you can use those to test your mettle on how this can get better. So I think that's all for now. Do you have any questions? Anybody? Any questions from anywhere? Since there are no questions, I'll just upload this video. So both the group, as like I always like to say, the group is let me quickly share that with you, just in case you missed it. The group is https as a group. And if you want to register for the next session, I'm sure you guys are already registered. And if you want to reach out to me, oops, that was wrong. If you want to reach out to me, or this is a very private email, I'll share it. Should I? Nah. Okay, so someone is saying, when you try, you can ask questions. Yeah, sure. You can reach out to me on any of those things. You can send a mail to the group. Okay, someone is saying, okay, can the code be shrunk? Yes, it can. You notice I put everything together in one place, like looking very, very long, right? Of course, you can. You can decide, okay, you want this block to be a function, for example. But then instead of everything that I can really put together as a function, you can, well, it really depends on you. It really depends on you, right? Depends on you, really. If you look at, but you know, if you build this code from ground up like we are doing now, you probably realize, yep, you are very correct, that the loops can get very long. What you can do is you can put the loop as a function. So in this part, where we are, this part, for example, where we are saying print you have run out of tries, right? You can just create a small function that just prints fail. And then instead of doing all this long thing, just call else, fail, bracket open, bracket close. And the thing we're going to call fail wherever it is, right? You can do the same thing for this one, and you know, just put them in functions. But then the function is always recommended that a function returns a what's that word? Has a return statement. So you decide how you want to get all of those together. But because I'm just putting it together as an introductory class, and put so that it's simpler to follow this way, and we're not jumping from one function to another. I'm putting everything in one place, right? Whichever way you want to put it together, you want to spread the stuff out, you can decide, right? I hope that clarifies. Okay, so yeah, thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate your presence. I know that we'll get to do this again next time. And I think this is where we draw the curtains on this particular session. As always, you can reach me on these handles. You can send a message to me on GitHub, so that's possible, right? And I think that will be all for now. And I always say, if you're able to finish this code, right? I want to let me ask that you send me a message so that I can upload it as an addendum to this, so that your code can also be visible on this, right? So when if you send a message, I'll show you how you can do that, so that we can collaborate on this code as well. All right, so that should bring us to the end of this. Thank you very much, everyone. And I'll say have a beautiful day ahead, depending on your time zone, or have a beautiful night, right? Cheers, guys, and bye-bye.